Good morning. It's about 11:20 a.m. on Monday, the 14th of July, 2025. The beautiful weather has changed. There was a lot of rain overnight. Thankfully, I have my hay in somewhere under a cover in the shed, and so we can ease off on the work and take a little break for a while. Now, my channel, for those of you, there'll be some people who've never seen me before, is on the go about 10 years. It started to do with the electricity debacle in Ireland and this renewable energy and what we call woke agenda, this extreme cultural Marxist. It's called left wing. It's a communist agenda. It's pushed by the EU, Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil and Sinn Féin. And it seems to be like a disease. Once it gets into someone, like drugs, they can't get it out of their system, and it's stuck in our system. But anyway, my job really, what I see myself is, I make sense of the world around me. I assess. I believe one of the most important words in the English language is assess. Another word is assume, and they used to say, when you assume, you make an ass of you and me. That's the way it's spelled. So I try to figure out from all the information I can get what exactly is happening, and I try and get the feel of the thing. I am a farmer son. I was nearly killed, almost drowned and killed in an accident in 1969, and I bought a bit of land, and I have a wee bit of land I inherited, and I run the farm here now as a retired Garda. But I spent 32 years in the Garda Síochána, and so I can share some of that experiences with you. My cat likes to come in here. Please understand, she might hop up here. But anyway, an example of assessing in the Guards was certain licenses, like for firearms and that, to recommend, and it was easy refuse everything or recommend everything be refused, but that wasn't very fair either, and I had a certain amount of fairness when I'd recommend things, and I always made sure if there was a doubt to talk to the people concerned and let them know how difficult a decision it was to give them maybe a gun license, and then usually they wouldn't do anything then after that if they got it, they'd mind it. Another area I used to deal with a lot was adoptions. The Irish state will not, well, that time anyway, I'm not sure now, but the Irish state will not grant an adoption order if the Guards really stick the heels in. They do check with the Guards. There are other agencies, but they check with the Guards. And in most cases, you'd know the people concerned, and that'd be all right. But in an odd case, you'd have doubts. You'd have doubts. And so, what I used to do is get in a few of my own detectives. I was a detective sergeant, and a few of the senior guards around the place, or anyone that had dealings with these people, and have a bit of a discussion. You never know what they might come up with. And then, based on that, I'd make a balanced decision. I'd make a decision whether to recommend or not, based on assessing everything. For example, was this child set to inherit a lot of property at some future date maybe, and would the whole motive in adopting it being to get money? That would be a thing I would have a red flag up. On the other hand, maybe to be an odd row, an odd domestic, but maybe that it was never too bad. So you'd have to figure out these things and make a recommendation. And I have to say, touch wood, we never got it wrong, really. Any adoptions were grand. I'm only giving you the example about assessing. Assess. I assessed the weather yesterday morning. I rang a few people around that was listening to forecasts, and they told me get those bales of hay, square bales, in under the shed somewhere because there's going to come rain. And sure enough, this morning there come plenty of rain. It would have it wouldn't have left them any better, put it like that. So there's no harm to have them in. So that's a case of assessment. Now you might read the forecast yourself, Well, I did, but I got other opinion as well. So that's the way you assess. You do that all the time. I do it with money. I do it with how much I drink, which isn't a lot. But if I'm taking a drink, I take it in moderation. If I gamble on horses, it's very rare. If I put a bet on something else, it's all assessed. I usually get my bets right. But one thing I want to tell you about my time in the Gardaí, we'd be investigating crimes. Some of it would be fairly serious crimes. And you'd have no leads at all, but you'd keep rooting away. And now and again you'd solve a crime, but there'd come a time in the investigation when you'd feel you had it beat. You had it beaten. We're going to get this solved. And I used to get a feeling coming over me about that. There's a feeling you get when your efforts have come in and a wee bit of luck. Don't forget what luck is. Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. There's no such thing as pure luck as such. If there's no preparation, you'll not have much opportunity. Like winning the lotto is it luck at all? It's just a very far out a chance. Anyway, we leave that like that now and we go on to that. I want you just to understand, because the people who are going to look at this video may never have seen me before. Now, I want to say to you people here, if you know me and you know this and you're not interested in the planning system, please switch off now. This is for a special group who need a bit of advice quick. Now, the other thing I want to say, the heading here is Solar Farm, Monevey, North Galway. Do you see that? Solar Farm, Monevey, North Galway. Now, a chap was on to me yesterday, explained all, don't hold me on little town lands. I could be dealing with 8 wind farms or 8 solar farms at the one time. I can't know where each town land is. It's not necessary. I want to give you what I discovered. Now, the other thing I have to say is I'm not your lawyer. You're not paying me as a lawyer. I'm not qualified as a lawyer. I have a lot of reading up done on European law. I have court experience in it, and I know how the system works and have come to certain conclusions. But I can't take responsibility for how my information is used. Right. Now, all you people from over there in Galway, I want to welcome you to my channel, and hopefully I will be able to set you right. So now we're going to start on this planning. First of all, there were meetings held by the group. Well, first of all, the plan of the EU is to destroy agricultural land. This is not on poor land. This is on good land in East Galway. It's a disgrace. 900 acres to be covered in junk, in Chinese junk, with chemicals and everything else. That's it. Now, the other thing about me is I don't whinge. My country's going down the tubes with migrants and woke and lefties and greens, and there's no point losing any sleep over it. We have to get on with our lives. Okay? I hear now today, I'm not sure, I haven't checked it, Eamon Ryan, the idiot that couldn't build the children's hospital, has been given a role in housing in the European Union. So how do you deal with that? The only thing we can do is destroy the system that does it. And may I say to you people as well, if you have voted Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael or Sinn Féin, you brought this on yourself. I've been shouting from the rooftops for 15 years not to do that, not to vote for them. And yet, some of you will have done it. You needn't switch off. I'm not going to get political again. But I want to tell you that when we joined the EU, there was a promise of proper environmental protection, and that was the Strategic Environmental Directive 201/42 EC, 201/42 EC, and that has an article in Article 3.2 that the energy must be assessed along with many other things. No assessment is done on any energy, any electricity supply or anything in Ireland. And based on that, then the Habitats Directive, the Environmental Impact Assessment, the Local Directive and the Pollution Control Directive are supposed to be coming under that. So you have an overarching planner programme, and that's subject to challenge and to court procedure. So when that's all done, then you have the local EU laws running under it. What they've done is they've refused to do the overarching assessment, and so it's all left to the local assessments. Okay. Now Now, unfortunately, the SEA directive has a section in it which excludes budgetary matters, and this has been pushed through the courts, and Friends of the Irish Environment went through the courts on this, and the EU Court of Justice tends to side with the government if they just provide money in a budget for windmills or solar farms. But when they go on to make a plan or programme, such as the National Renewable Energy Action Plan, or any modification of it, they have to comply with Article 3.2. And that's how a case by Friends of the Irish Environment was lost. I collected money here before. We took a case too with lawyers. And these very fine points, the European Court of Justice will only stop this if you have them caught really well. And unfortunately, I personally wasn't involved or hadn't the right to pick up the statement of grounds in the courts, and they didn't succeed. We done our best, but I was not directly involved. Now, having said that, in a couple of wind farms, I have got the people to include a statement of grounds on this, on the wind energy guidelines and the wind energy and the energy plan itself. And the minute it came in before the courts, on board Planola back down on some other grounds. So they're afraid of their life on this, and this is one of the big points you have. Now, the other thing is, 90% of the lawyers in Ireland don't want to do this. They don't want to go against the government. You have to understand that. The biggest problem with taking a judicial review is not what you put down, it's what lawyers you select. But there are a few, and a few of them have been working on this, and some of them were not educated in it. They slowly came around to understand it. Okay, that's enough there. There's no SCA done. Forget about that. That's up to you. The second thing is, under Irish planning law, you have three things. You have a planning application. That's for a house, we'll say, or a hay shed, swimming pool, a new sewage system or something. That's planning. That is not under a government plan or programme. So it's just planning, Planning and Development Act. You can appeal that through the courts, but you can't go beyond the Irish Supreme Court. Next is you have a project. A project is under, I think it's 172 of the Planning and Development Act. It's Part 10 of the Planning and Development Act 2000. Sorry, it's under Part 10 of the Planning and Development Act 2000 is a project. And a project requires an environmental impact assessment under EU Directive 209, again, my head's not screwed on. 211/92 EC. I had to think about it there for a minute. 211/92 EC. So back report to paper. Here's the SCA Directive. 201/42 EC, and is transposed into Irish law by statutory instrument 435 for stuff like solar farms and wind farms, and 436 for housing. That's the end of that. I have to get rid of that now and burn that. Now we go on to the smaller directives. So these are the underneath directives. The SCA is the overarching plan or programme, and that should be held for forestry, fishery, river-based management, town and country planning, all the housing plans, all illegal, all 100% unlawful. Wind energy, solar, the energy generally has to be for energy, Article 3.2. There's a few other there as well, tourism. Anyway, now this is the EIA Directive Environmental Impact Assessment 211/92 EC, and it's amended by 214/52 EC. Now, if you go reading them, they'll do your head in. They have a preamble, which is persuasive in law. They have the articles, which are the binding in law. And they have the annexes, which is what it refers to. So we'll come to the annexes in a minute. Now, you have the Habitats Directive and you have the Pollution Control Directive. Okay. All of these are invalid. So you'll be stating they're invalid without the EIA. Now, I want to explain to you that this used to be an old 1985 EIA directive. It's gone now. This is it. So this directive here is the main directive. Soil, water, effect of human health and all that. And this one amends this one a bit. And the only real amending is that this one requires expertise in the preparation of the environmental impact assessment report. The first directive, the 1985 directive, it could be done by a newly arrived migrant from Venezuela with one leg and one eye. Didn't matter. No skill was needed at all. With the result, you had young lassies getting jobs in councils as planners, and they got all this and they hadn't a monkey's notion. I met two of them in Cavan, and they hadn't a notion about these things. That's their problem. You got to think like this. Now, so the first thing is the amending directive is there must be expertise. The other thing about this is there must be the cumulative effects must be studied. In the Planning and Development Act, the cumulative effects have to be looked into. But for an EIA, the cumulative effects was not there. It is under this directive. Okay. Now, the Habitats Directive is long-winded. If you want me to look into it, I might, but we have enough there. My problem is not all this law. The problem is it's not implemented. And you have the Pollution Control Directive. Well, that will apply in this as well. Now, it took me a few years to get my head around this stuff, and I argued it in the High Court, and the lawyers didn't take issue with me. We made a very wide statement of grounds, and I thought the judge we were right, but Judge Max Barrett decided otherwise. Now, have I got that across? You have a planning and development application for houses, swimming pools, for yourself, patio, if that's needed. Okay, that's a Planning and Development Act. Under the Planning and Development Act, there are exempted developments. There are things you can do yourself. One of them is putting up a satellite dish, without it. They're there in a big long schedule. Okay. Building a wall around the house. That sort of stuff is exempt. I'm not going to read them all out. If I went to read them all out, there's something like 50 of them, it'd destroy my video. Anyone wants, I'll dig it up for them. I'm blue in the face looking at it. Okay, there's exempted development. That's it. All the rest needs planning permission, and under Section 32, it's a criminal offence to build something without planning permission. You have that. Now, under the Planning and Development Act, you have the Planning and Development Regulations 2001, 600 SI, Statutory Instrument 600, 2001. And they're an enormous length. They're a huge length. Planning and Development Regulations. Now, for years, the EIA directive, now we're forgetting about the SEA. You either go there and fight it or you don't. If you do, I'll help you with it when it comes to the point. Now we're down at the lower ones. So what the government is saying is we don't have to do the SEA directive at all. And what they pleaded in cases is, it's budgetary. But the key is it is a let-out clause. That's so that you couldn't stop a national budget for alcohol and cigarettes and petrol and fuel. But once they go to implement that directive, that's where you have them. And a classic example of that is the 2006 wind energy guidelines, which were never assessed under the SEA directive. Right? They should have been assessed. And when we pushed them, they tell us they had it in before the thing came out. This SEA directive came out in 2004. Okay? They're no fools, these people, that they know how to try and get out of stuff. So now, I'll just pause now. Now, the SEA directive is not written into the Planning and Development Act. And the EIA directive was not built into the Planning and Development Act until they finally did it in 2011. That's how long. From 1985 to 2011, the courts had to decide what the impact of this stuff was. And there was cases and cases. So the SEA directive isn't built in either, because if it was, they'd be caught by it. They'd have to do it. The fact is, in Ireland, they're so stupid in government, and the universities is turning out such stupid people that couldn't assess anything. It's made up on a wing and a prayer. Okay? So now you have that. The SEA directive, I've dealt with it. You have the EIA directive. Here's the number of it here. And you have the Habitats and Pollution Control Directive. Under Annex 2 of the EIA directive, wind farms above a certain size, which is nearly all of them, it's 5 megawatts or 2 turbines, must have an EIA. They must have the habitats, they must have all, if they're above that size. For all intents and purposes, all wind farms must have an EIA. You'll get it in Annex 2. Also, under the Planning and Development Act the Planning and Development Regulations 2001 schedule, they also must have an EIA, wind farms. Now, there's a funny thing about the EIA directive. It's number 13 on the schedule, number 13 on the annex, that any change to an existing thing can go ahead, provided it doesn't have a significant impact on the environment. And that can be used to overcome parts of the EIA directive, but I won't have time to go into it now. Now, the wind farms have to have an EIA, no matter how much the ladies in the local council or Burplanola hate it. No matter how much they hate it, they have to do it. And it's a costly process. Okay? There's no option. It doesn't matter whether it has a significant impact on an environment or it doesn't. If it has 3 turbines, it needs it. If it's 7 megawatts, it needs it. You can't get out of it by saying, oh, we don't think it has a significant impact on the environment. They have no say. No say. However, solar farms are not on the annexes to the directive and are not on the schedule of the Planning and Development Act. Why? Corruption. They should have been added, but they're not. And way back in the time of the SEA directive and the EIA directive and those directives, they thought the people had grabbed this renewable energy and love it. They thought, we'll put the windmills on it, we'll put them on the EIA directive. But solar farms were down the road. So if you covered all of County Cork in solar farms, the annex does not make it necessary to have an EIA. Now, that'll put you thinking. 3 turbines or 7 megawatts in Cork needs an EIA, pollution control, habitats directive, statement and all of that. And a solar farm, the size of the whole county, doesn't. Well, not exactly, because there's a section of the annex, a section of the directive, in the main directive, if it has a significant impact on the environment. Wind farms above the size, you must have your EIA, your habitats and your pollution control. Solar farms, no such requirement. You only need the SEA if it has I'm not going to stop a video because I'm making a mistake. You only need an EIA, a pollution control and a habitats statement if it has a significant impact on the environment, and the people that decide that is the ones in the council. In a couple, I got a wee job, I'm going to get a new pair of boots on it. Oh, you want to see me outfit now? Oh, I'm Maria. Oh. They can say you don't need it. But Planola can uphold that. We don't believe there's an EIA necessary. It doesn't have a significant impact on the environment. And you can be sure, if they can get how to do in the EIA, they love the developers. The councils and the Board Pleanála love the developments, and there's a section in the Planning and Development Act that says that planners have to do what the government tells them, but it's not that tight. They have to take government policy into account. There's nothing in it. The courts will normally go along with that, but the directives will usually be followed by the higher courts at least. Now, I hope I haven't confused you. You'll now, having looked at this, you'll come along and you'll ask me concise and clear questions underneath for me to answer. I don't want any praise or anything else. What good is praise to me? What good is congratulating me? And what good is criticism? If I have something wrong, bring it up and we'll discuss it and look at the law. Okay, you have that. So, with this wind farm of 900 acres, it certainly will have a significant impact on the environment. And if I was to guess it, I'd say there'll be an EIA done. Now, when there are meetings for the public, I wouldn't go myself. I wouldn't bother my head. Because they're only trying to see what you know. All I'd go if I asked them is, where's the environmental report under the SEA Directive? Can you produce the environmental report, please, under the SEA Directive? Where is it? There's a question. But as to tell them, oh, well, we don't like this will damage our property prices. You might as well be talking to the bull out in the field. They're not interested. They're the people building this, and they have the government by the curlies, and your neighbours can't wait to vote Fianna Fáil, Fine Gael and Sinn Féin, and will do it in the next election. So I'm subconsciously trying to destroy these parties. I might never succeed. It doesn't really matter. Have you that now? They don't want to do the EIAs, but if that size of 900, if they don't, I'd say you'd have an appeal straight away to the High Court. So I'd say they will do it. Where you're caught is if it's only 50 acres. They're not doing them in some areas. Now, I want to just get a piece of paper. I tell them very little, except the lack of the SCA. Right? Now, when they lodge the application, you must go in and you must have somebody capable of reading a map. The amount of wind farms that were built in Ireland, because Val Martin couldn't get away from making a sillage to go down to maybe Clare to look at a planning application. And if I had to see it, I'd have blocked it straight away. There was one over in Worker in Meath, and it was granted by Navan Planning. They thought there'd be an appeal to Board Pleanála, and nobody in the area knew you could appeal. Nobody. And nobody was capable of reading the file and finding out that. And because I had another one to go to, I couldn't be everywhere. The wind farm was built. So you need to be able to read a map or get an architect to come in about cables, and don't confuse the cables on the solar farm running right around it and into it and up the middle, and the ones bringing it out to the substation. They're two totally different things. The amount of people that can't get that through their head is unbelievable. The cables going between the panels of the wind farms are not the same as the cable going out to the substation and coming in. And because solar and wind farms need vast amounts of coal, oil and gas fired electricity to run, they're actually running on those fossil fuels. There'll be a wire in and a wiring coming out. Please understand the difference. If you're really that bad and you can't read it, I'll have to get the bus down. I'm sick of driving on these roads that got so busy. I'll have to get public transport down and read it for you. In 2 seconds I'd read it. Get to know those two different things. Okay. Now, when the planning is not lodged, there must be a hand or typewritten form. I think it's a 15. I think it's number 15. Don't hold me on that. But it's a form, and it has to be signed on the bottom. John Henry McCutcheon. It can be typed or written, but this must be signed by some person. You then look down through it, and what you're looking for is the box ticking. EIA, habitats, it could be a Natura thing, and pollution control. Are they ticked? If they're ticked, then you're going to have EU law. If it's a Planning and Development Act, as some of them is, it's under Irish law. It's different. If these are ticked, then you'll have these documents, your EIA, your habitats, probably Natura, whatever they call it, and your pollution control, and they'll be on it. That immediately brings it in under the auspices of European law, EUROPEAN, under European law. The exemptions of the Planning and Development Act don't apply to European law. You can't be given substitute consent. You can't be given retrospective consent under European law. Under Irish law, they could give you a planning permission for a house you built 60 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago. Under European law, they can't. Have you that? Look at the application form. If you're at the meeting with these balubas, ask them, would they have a copy of the application form now? Will there be? Don't ask them, will there be or yet. Have you a copy of the application form? Well, we haven't it done yet. Okay. Well, the reason I ask you, I just wonder what's ticked for these. Don't be pleading to these gangsters. Don't plead to them. Cop yourself on. Now, I might get cut off here with the battery. If I do, we'll be doing another one. Have you that now? So you have all that. And you know the difference. Now, I'll probably forget something. I'll come up with it when I'm out walking about. Now, the next thing is it goes to planning. I think it's 5 weeks. I think one planning objector used to write Happy Christmas on it. That's all. That's all you need. You have to write something. If you're making a submission, make sure you get it in on time, because a lot of them are late and a lot of them have mistakes, and you could have a big submission done and it's a day late. No good. Have it in at least 3.5 weeks. You don't need a big whill of, oh, my auntie Granny lived up there, unless you have a specific thing that might get it knocked at the planning level. Because a lot of people are hoping the planners will block it. And if you do it simple, they might. But I'll tell you what will make them block it quicker than that. And they'll know quicker than you will, if you have a good team of lawyers ready for them. Sure, I took a planning application appeal, again an old measuring mast here, and Cavan County Council, they nearly had a foal. I don't know why you're suing us, and them after granting it. They do not, if you can catch the councils in a judicial review, they have no money. Right, you have that. Now, I'll deal with the SID and all that. Simply, there's SID, Strategic Infrastructure Development, and then there's an EU thing for the pylons is under a different thing. What's this you call that? I'll leave it for the moment. This will be either SID or not. SID only means you take it away from the council altogether. But there will be a copy of the file in the local council office. I understand. A Strategic Infrastructure Development is dealt with Bord Pleanála direct. And that's the only time the planning authorities have a say. If it goes to Galway County Council and Bord Pleanála on appeal, then there's 2 bites of the cherry. But either side can appeal anyway on it. So now do you understand that? Have I made that clear? If it's an SID, it'll not go to the council at all. Now, some people get up on the high horse about why it's chosen. Away you go. I wouldn't be bothered me head, because it's going to go Bord Pleanála anyway, and the judges don't want poor little girls in the planning office under stress. Let them push it over there with an SID. However, the way it's going, everything's SID. There might be an angle there that the government is using the SID abusively. I won't get into it now. It's either an SID or it's not. If it's not, it goes to the council and then the Bord Pleanála. So get your application in within the allotted time. You put down the coordinates. They'll tell you. Now, if I give these, I'll try giving them the name of the project, the reference number of the planning authority. If it's Bord Pleanála, the reference number of Bord Pleanála. Ring them up, they'll give it to you. Get that down accurately. The name of the applicant, so-and-so Development Limited. Okay. I think it's the date of the application. The fee, you have to put in a fee. It's so much. Find out yourself. I think it's 50. Well, find out yourself. Right? What else? Who makes the submission? John Henry Muldoon. Who's the contact person? Some people put down me, Val Martin, and give them a phone number. Okay? You don't need to put your air code on the top. Just put your postal address. Although, it might help where they want to check your house. So it's a decision for you. If you have a house there and you don't mind giving your air code, because the whole country, the whole villains, and the CIA, the EIA, the SEA, the FBI, the whole European crowd, they hate anyone that appeals against their decisions with a vengeance. It's up to you. I've cost the wind industry €2 billion in Ireland alone. 2 billion. They don't like me. It takes a courageous person with a bit of pluck to do it. Now, if you want to put in, now make sure the first thing you write, can anyone stop the video and write what's the first thing you write when you give the heading down, all about it, and check it with the authorities. Make sure you get the things in, the date, the fee, what's needed, and your name and the contact person who will usually be one of the group. Check before you send it in. Now, what's the first thing you write to the planning department, Galway County Council, to on Bord Pleanála? And the heading, right, all right. What's the first sentence? Only 1 in 17,000 people have the brains to understand the first thing you write down. To say I'm a very smart man, I don't know. This comes to me like water off a duck's bag. The first thing you write down is, I recommend this application be marked invalid, and if not marked invalid, it be refused. That's the first thing. They want to see, are you for it or against it? Don't be putting a big long whillabaloo and then say, maybe you don't, and then say nothing. You recommend it be refused. That's your position. And it's not refused direct. If there's no EIA, or if the EIA is done, it's invalid because there's no SEA. The reason for this is there's no strategic environmental assessment, there's no environmental report. That's what has to be under the SCA directive. There's no environmental report, and therefore the other EIA, pollution control and habitats, are invalid, and it should be marked invalid. They'll ignore that completely, but that should go down. And then you say, failing that, you recommend it be refused for the following reasons. Now, we're on 37 minutes. When you go in to look at the whole maps and all, and you're there and people talking through their hat, a lot of them, one of the things you look at is the expertise in the 2014 directive. When you're into this stuff, you don't actually name the whole directive, you just give the year. The EIA directive amended the 2011 directive. And it requires expertise in 2 sections. Do not let a company, Big Tree Environmental Limited, is a great company. Here are our great people. Mary Ellen McCutcheon, BCom BST2. Alfie Pally Mickey Mackey, BS342. Edie Amin Abba, Dada, BSH, you know the rest. Monica Lewinsky, B. Distat, Environmental Science. And then go on down. And then at the bottom, signed, Jason Smith, on behalf of the company. Do not let that happen. That's not expertise. listing down the names of these so-called experts and then not having their names on it is a breach of the 2004 Directive. If they're writing about what this is going to do to power so many homes, there must be an electrical engineer signing off, giving his qualifications. If they're talking about the water in the bog, they need to have an environmental engineer. They need a hydrologist report. And that has to be signed by someone. You can't get, if I was starting a factory here, making a foundry, and I have to get a party in Ireland and there's nobody, I might have to go to the UK to come over and get an expertise on foundry management. And one of them, they can do it, they can have people to measure and all that, but there has to be one person signs that with the qualification in foundry management. He has to give his name, Michael Bradford, 13 Acorn Drive, Manchester. And he has to give his experience, his qualification, and what experience he had. If he's fresh out of college, that's no good. So you'll have a big party or judicial review on the lack of expertise because they're idiots. Now, that's 40 minutes. So you'll watch for these things. You can play my video again and again, and you're getting these points off them. Now, the problem is they can look at this as well. And as one of my friends said to me, what happens if they get the perfect application? Well, that's not your problem. Your problem is to beat these rascals and beat them hands down. Right? Now, get your application in. I see no point in me going further. But don't allow a solicitor or a barrister to come in. There's no point getting you running barristers unless they know what they're talking about and unless they're prepared to come up here and meet me and I test their knowledge. You'll be fighting on the lack of the SEA. And that'll be one ground. When they grant it, you'll then be told you can take a judicial review. And you need to keep, for heaven's sake, keep the receipt. Keep the receipt. Go in and hand in your application and keep that receipt and make several photocopies of it. Don't lose it. You with me now? To the council and to Bord Pleanála. So you'll have a statement of grounds. No SEA. No expertise on the invalid EIA directive, pollution control and habitats. 2. That's 1. 2. 3. Lack of expertise in the EIA. Signed by one person, claiming to sign it on behalf of the others. If you get an engineer to do a job for you and he makes a mess of it and it falls down and kills somebody, you can sue his insurance. They don't want to be tied in. They don't want, their insurance mightn't cover them if they write this is lovely on new technology. They have to put their name to it and show that they're covered by the relevant association and that they are insured by the relevant association. Now, I'll be coming back to you with my man down there. He's Tom, I think. I don't like naming people on the air, but I'll talk to him again. I'll be coming back to you then when we get this done. So you got to get over, the first thing you got to get over is the meetings with them. I've dealt with that. Ask them for the environmental report. And don't be educating them. Keep them as thick and as ignorant as you can. But they need that. They need the SEA. Ask them when they're giving their rosy presentation about the homes it'll cover, what is your qualification? Have you got any evidence of your qualification? That's the way to get them. Now, before I go, we'll have more on this. I've done what I was asked yesterday. You know this is a complete scam. You know that. It's a sign of the times we're in. If you don't, that's good enough. So I think I've helped you there. I think I've done what I was asked in less than 45 minutes. So I might come up with something else that I'll forget when I get up the road a bit or out in the field. But for now, anyway, I've helped you with a bit. And I'll bet you very few of you knew. There's a planning and development application. There's a project, which is EIA. This is not a project. This is a plan or development. This is a project requiring the EIA. And over here is the SEA, the environmental report after the government's plan and programme is assessed, which is not done. Planning and development, so you've learned that. A plan under the Planning and Development Act, Irish law only. A project under EU law, this is dealt with by the Irish courts. This is dealt with by the European courts ultimately, although the Irish courts deal with it until it gets up there. And then you have the SEA, the environmental report. So ask them for the environmental report. Can we have a copy of it now, please? For the government's plan or programme for energy under Article 3.2 of the SEA Directive. That's the best I can do. A good old effort, you have to admit, for a farm with cows. We'll see you back. Thank you very much.